Hey everybody, I'm Jason Mefford and I'm here with Brad Miller. And today on Walking a Spiritual Path podcast, we're going to talk about rituals and practices. I know a lot of times in the spiritual space, people use the word practices, and often rituals seem to be associated more with religion. And that's why we wanted to talk about them, kind of what's the same about them, what's different about them, how you can use them in your life as you are on this spiritual path. Um, so Brad, I know you brought this one up as a topic, which I think is great. How do you kind of differentiate between rituals versus practices? Do you have a way of kind of uh, seeing them as different, or are they the same thing, or?
I think a practice is kind of anything you do. Um, so I think kind of let's say the sports context, you go practice the sport before you play it, or you're doing a musical instrument, you practice the instrument before just kind of get better or whatever. And so to me, practice is kind of a doing to help you get better at something. I mean, that's kind of how I kind of envision that. More related to me to habits actually are or to rituals are habits. You have habits. Because to me the stiff, they're very similar outside. Habit is something more kind of subconscious, something that you do regularly, repeatedly. And what differentiates that from the ritual is the fact that the ritual is something you're doing with intention. You're doing intentionally. You've got some sort of an intent behind the action that you're doing. So while a ritual could be sort of habitual, you could say a practice, whatever is a ritual or whatever, or you have a habit of practice, whatever. I think all three you can kind of use in the context. To me, the difference is the rituals are things that you are doing with some sort of a specific intention behind it.
Mhm.
So whatever that may be, I mean, ideally for our discussions, it's something positive and something to the light, but really anything you put an intention behind like that, it could be a ritual of some sort.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, and I think that's and again, everybody, we're just talking from our own experience, right? What we've kind of learned, how we kind of see this as well. But we thought it might be important to share with you because, while practices are important and we should do that, along your spiritual path, you need to incorporate some kind of rituals as well. And again, that might be different for each person. And so, maybe to kind of clear the ground a little bit, because that word ritual, I think is often, I think of people thinking of it kind of in two different ways, right? Either, a ritual like, imagine the Catholic Church, kind of swinging the incense, receiving the sacrament, baptism, things like that are kind of seen as rituals, right? And I think people understand that from a religious standpoint. And there's a little bit of a tie-in to that because most religions take some ritualistic things and kind of turn them into those ordinances or whatever you want to call them in their religion. And I think the second way that a lot of people might think about rituals is more like from a cultish standpoint.
mhm.
And when I say a cult is not a dark term. It's white and it's dark. It's both, right? So people can practice a cult in the dark or in the light. But I think, from movies and everything else, usually when people hear that word, they think dark, they think black
Mhm.
magic, they
Blood
think
sacrifices,
blood
things like that.
sacrifices, killing babies and chickens and, different things like that. And well, yes, I guess those would be considered rituals. That's not what we're talking about. Okay. No blood sacrifice necessary,
But we're not
in
judging
where
though,
we're
so
going.
just
We're
put
not
that out there.
judging,
But
as
no, no.
well. But yeah, I kind of like how you said that too, that because I think of rituals as more of an intention.
Mhm.
like you said, and sometimes maybe kind of some similar steps or guidelines that you kind of go through in doing it, but this is where too there's, not to include dogma in it, there's no right or wrong way of doing these
Mhm.
things, right? And so they may be habitual, they may be things you do every day, every week. They may be things you do only when you feel like you need to do them.
Mhm.
They may be some things that maybe you only do once in your life, right? And so the time frame is not necessarily there with these. And so what I mean by that is like if you think from a religious standpoint, right? You get baptized one time, right? And so once you kind of go through that ritual of baptism, typically people don't get baptized multiple times in their life, right? But they could be certain things like prayer, right? And that may be something you do not only every day, but many times during the day as well, right? And so, um, I guess we have to share a little bit now too, right? To help people kind of understand and
I
see.
mean, we could just leave it at that and be
We
like, all
could,
right, there you
yeah,
go.
just stop it. Bye-bye, everybody,
See you
right?
next time. Right. I mean, it's
So,
possible, but
so I'll share a little bit maybe to begin with, right? So I have certain practices that I do. Um, like I said, some daily, some weekly, some different line of it. And I think practices you can think of even as things like, taking supplements, right? So there's certain supplements or foods that I eat, herbs, other different kinds of things each day, right? And so that's kind of a practice, and so when I do that, but it's more than just taking it as well, right? I mean, some of them I probably do take or eat without much thought, but some of them I actually put more thought into it and what it's doing for my body and expressing gratitude for what I'm consuming, right? And so I would still maybe think of that as a practice, right? But I do certain things like, usually every day I light one or two candles, depending on what's going on. And I have specific intention behind why I'm lighting those candles. Okay. And so each time that I light one of those candles, I kind of say in my head or kind of offer a prayer, if you will, even though that's not necessarily the best word for it, to set my intention and to notify the universe why I'm doing that, the intention I have behind lighting a candle, right? And so, like I said, I most days I light two candles, one for, each one for different purposes and kind of go through that. And that I would consider an example more of a ritual, even though, again, me lighting a candle and what I'm saying or the intention I might have behind why I'm lighting a candle. Because again, I can do it for more than just those two purposes. It's just those have become kind of rituals or habits that I incorporate into my life most every day, right? Um,
yeah. Well, I'll take the heat off you there for a second.
yeah, I'm
So
like, okay, Brad, now it's your turn to share. Come on,
my
man,
turn to
save
share
me,
shit.
save me, save me.
No. So I mean, kind of you mentioned that's something you kind of do every day, most every day. I have a ritual, I guess, where I've got and actually you can see it right back there. I've
Mhm,
got a salt lamp,
mhm,
and it actually dims. So I have it dimmed down in the evenings at night. So then I turn it up first thing when I walk in my office here in the morning. And then right here, I've got a sound bowl, singing
Hmm.
bowl.
Hmm.
And so I play my singing bowl. I hit it 3 times and to kind of get the day going.
Hmm.
And then in the evenings, when the day's done, before I go to bed, I hit the singing bowl again 3 times and dim the light. So that's one of the rituals that I do most every day. Sometimes I don't do it on the weekends. But for the most part, weekdays, when I'm working here in my office, those are things that I do. Um,
Yeah, and so I think, as we talk about, because both of us have given some examples here, right? So we can, some people are going to say, well, that just sounds like a practice to me. Well, I don't care. If that's what you want to think of it as, then fine, right?
sure, yeah.
But again, I'm guessing, right? Brad dings the singing bowl 3 times in the morning and 3 times at night. So
Mhm,
there's a ritualistic element to it, right? And
mhm,
again, you don't have to get into all behind it, but I'm just using that as an example, right? Three is a sacred number, right? And so there's a reason why Brad has chosen to, hit it 3 times in a sense to kind of open the office
mhm.
and 3 times at the end of the day to kind of close the office, right? And, again, he could have lots of intentions for why he's doing this, right? To clear the energy in his office, to close down, the energy and allow him to move into something else. Because I think a lot of times rituals like that help us even kind of in shifting our mindset. And so there's certain things just like that that I do in the morning when I come into my office that are similar, right? And again, would these be rituals or practices? I'd probably call what I do like opening my journal, picking my new colored pen, right? Writing the date. Those would probably be more, I would consider those more practices and ways to get me in the headspace to start my day. But there's not really much intention behind it other than to get me in a 3D state of mind, right? But when I light a candle, as an example, there's an intention to it. I'm setting an intention. I'm sending energy out into the world and out into the universe while I do it. I may be asking for specific guidance. I may be asking for protection, other different things like that that I might be doing, depending on what my intention is, right? And so when I do that, I'm not lighting the candle because I need 3D light. Okay. And so to me, that's where there's kind of a difference here. I have indoor electricity, right? I mean, you can see I've got lights on in, in my office right now. I don't have to light a candle to be able to see, but I choose to use the candle for a specific spiritual purpose that's done with intention.
Yeah, and I think that's the key is the spiritual purpose with intention.
Mhm.
The reason you're doing it, and I do want to be clear. We've talked about things that are things we kind of do every day, but that doesn't necessarily matter. I know we talked about it could be something you do weekly or occasionally or whatever. So before we record these podcast episodes, I light some sage. I don't do it every day. I just do it when I do it on different occasions, and one of those happens to be when we are getting ready to record a podcast. And sometimes I will light a candle for particular reasons. And it's not necessarily something I do very often,
Mhm.
and it's not a regular thing. But it's still, kind of ritualistic because, like you said, of the spiritual intent kind of behind it. And sometimes I think you don't, at least for me anyway, maybe understand or know exactly the whole intent behind it. Sometimes I just feel kind of drawn to do something.
Mhm.
Oftentimes that's what it is with a candle. I just, for the reason something says, "Hey, we need to light this candle."
Mhm.
And so sometimes the spiritual intent is to allow whatever needs to happen with this happen, you know, to kind of go with whatever I've been guided to do, and to light this candle for that, for that. So just because it's something you're not really sure why you're doing it, it's not something I'm totally doing this because I want, three times because I don't, three is my favorite number. And, if I do it two times, then that's just not enough vibration in the room. And four times is just right out. And three is the number. It doesn't have to be got, it could just be, what? Something says three is the right number. And so that's what we go with. And
Well, and
still a
so
ritual.
that's yeah, and so but see that's what you felt like too, right? Three was important for you. That
Hmm.
just felt like the right number for you.
Yep.
Somebody else, and so again, we talk about no dogma, right? It's like that is not the right way to do your
Right.
singing bowl, right? You can do it however you want. So anybody listening, if you feel like the number five or seven or 13 or whatever the number is that feels right for you, that's the number you should use, not necessarily because Brad is doing three. And so he's not here telling you if you need to come into your office every day and you need to hit your singing bowl three times. And when you leave the office, you do it again, right? And kind of creating a rule,
Hmm.
because then that's when these practices or rituals turn into dogma of
Hmm.
somebody telling you that you have to do it this particular way and it's only done right if you do it that particular way. Okay. And so I know I've talked before about washing my hands,
Hmm.
right? And so again, I wash my hands at different points during the day. Sometimes I'm just washing them because I got dirt on them. I was outside and I'm all muddy or I've got grease on them and I just need to wash my hands. And so some of the times during the day that I wash my hands, I wouldn't call it a ritual, right? Because I'm just taking care of some 3D grime that needs to be taken care of. However, the other times when I'm actually washing my hands with intention and I'm saying certain things, right, to myself, and again, I'll just kind of paraphrase or put some words out there. It's not necessarily what I'm saying, but just to give people an idea of what I'm talking about, right? If I go and I start washing my hands and in my head or out loud, whatever you would want to do, if you say, as I wash my hands physically, I am washing and cleansing my body and my spirit of all energy that no longer serves me, right? That latter one would make it more of a ritual. Now, do you have to use those words? No. You can use any words you want to. In fact, all you have to do is set an intention of, I'm washing my hands to clean myself energetically, and then go do it. That's all it takes is the intention. If you want to put more words around it, put more words around it. It's fine, right? And another one is that I see a lot of, and again, depending on what people's religious background is, but praying also is a form of ritual,
Hmm.
right? And depending on how you choose to pray, again, I was always taught to pray from the heart. I was given certain guidelines, right? And I was taught how Mormons pray or how they teach people to pray. But, there's a standard opening and a standard closing on their prayers. Everything else in the middle is whatever from your heart you feel like you need to say or want to pray for. Right. There's other religions that have, specifically written down prayers, right? And so people don't actually pray in their own voice. They read these scripted prayers. That's a ritual as well, right? But again, how you choose to pray, or if you even choose to pray, is entirely up to you, right? And so, we're not here to tell you a way to do it, but prayer, in my opinion, is a form of ritual, right, as well, that you can incorporate multiple times during the day if you want to. And again, it's more important. It's the intention behind what you're doing, not necessarily the words that you're actually using.
Yeah. So I think the question that probably is coming up to the people who, the 3 or 4 people that actually listen to this podcast or watch it on YouTube,
3 or 4 million people?
hey, you know what? We reach the people that need to hear us.
Yep.
But I think the question a lot of them are having is, okay, well, how do I come up with a ritual? Like, how do I decide what to do? Like, that's great. I guess I get what a ritual is now, but how do I actually put a ritual into place in my life? So how would you
Yes.
respond to that?
Well, I think it would be, part of it is if you're feeling like you need to add some rituals to your life, then there's probably a reason why you're feeling like you need to do that, right? And so if you get quiet with yourself, and even just say something simple, like ask yourself a question like, what rituals should I start incorporating in my life? And then just wait for an answer. Don't get it right then. Don't expect it to come right then. It might come in the shower. It might come when you're driving to work. It might come. But if you ask yourself that question or ask the universe that question kind of in prayer, you're going to figure out what the right thing is for you to do at that particular time. And it might be only short-lived, right? Because it may change over time. There may be some that you decide that you want to incorporate most every day of your life, and that's fine too. Um, but there's no right or wrong way, and how you do it and the way in which you do it is the artistry that you bring to your spiritual path, right? And so it might be like Brad. For some reason, you felt like you were supposed to hit the singing bowl 3 times when you start and when you end your day.
Mhm.
It just kind of came to you. It's one of those knowings that you just kind of got, right? I mean, for me, specifically with the candles, I remember hearing one of my friends give kind of a prayer or invocation to the universe. And I really loved some of the language that she used as she was doing it that really just stuck with me, right? And so I'm a fire sign. I'm a Leo. I like fire. Okay. I have a lot of masculine energy myself, and so I like to work with fire. Okay. Now I don't work with fire as much as I would like to because that it freaks people out. Okay, honestly, and
That's
people
their
see it
problem, not
as
yours, though.
I know, but people may see it as like a safety issue, right? And so for me, I decided, I try to or I work with all of the different elements, right? And so if you think about like cardinal, north, south, east, west, and the medicine wheel. Medicine wheel is a term that a lot of the Native Americans used. With each of those cardinal points representing a different platonic solid or shamanic element, right? So north is air, east is fire, south is earth, and west is water. And so I do things to incorporate the use of all of those elements into my day. And so I wanted a way to start incorporating fire more into my day. But again, it's like, it's easy enough to wear crystals or metals, which represent earth. It's easy enough to drink water and bless water and always have water with you. The air is all around us, so hey, it's here, right? But I wasn't really incorporating much fire element, and so I decided that I wanted to start using candles as one of the ways to do that. The sun is also fire, right? And so again, I guess another ritual to throw out there is a lot of days I'll go out into the sun at about noon and actually just soak up the sun's rays and talk to the sun for a few minutes. Okay. Um, and so that would be, I guess, kind of more of a, would that be a practice, a ritual? I don't know. It's
I don't think it
me.
matters.
It
It's
doesn't
either
matter. It doesn't really
no.
matter. And it's me communicating with the sun and expressing gratitude and asking for things. And it just puts me in a good space, with me receiving certain things from him as well. And so, it doesn't matter what you call it, right? Um, but anyway, so with the fire element, right? And so that's why what I did is I just came up with my own thing, right? Of I heard this kind of prayer that one of my friends had given. I wanted to incorporate light, and I found a way that worked for me to say, look, as I light this candle, I'm going to say something in my own words that was similar to what my friend said. I don't use the exact words that she used because I needed something that felt right for me, right? And so as I go through that and as I'm lighting the candle, I'm saying those things to myself, right? And so that becomes my own ritual. I don't know if anybody else is doing it. Nobody taught me, quote unquote, taught me how to do it. It just came to me. I did it. It felt good. And so I do it most every day, right? Um, and I don't know, is that kind of
Yeah.
helpful? I mean, maybe they come that way to you. Maybe you see something somebody else is doing, even, something like we're talking about here,
Mhm.
or something that somebody else is doing that you think, hey, you know what? I'd really like to incorporate that into my life as well. Well, okay, then just figure
Mhm.
out and find a way to incorporate it in your life that works for you.
Yeah. And that's the key. You mentioned it's something that feels right for me. That was the line that you used. And I think that's really important, because you want to find something that just kind of feels right, feels aligned with you. There are different ways, like you said, you can find these things. Um, I know I have, like something like with your fire candle situation, where I've heard someone else say they did something, and like something about when they described what they did kind of resonated with me, and I'm like, that kind of I kind of like that. It just kind of feels right what they're talking about. But I didn't like take it, exact. I didn't, do the same words they used, or take it word to word what they did. But I kind of took the idea, the concept, kind of the intent that they were going for behind it, and made it my own.
Mhm.
Or something that just kind of, like I said, just kind of came to me. I was like, I'm seeing something here, and it just seems like this is what I should be doing. And I don't, and it's one of those things you can't really explain where that came from. I can't say, well, I got this idea, I read this somewhere, but it's just, something that just kind of comes and it just kind of feels right. And some of it is tweaked. Some of it is not something that it started out that it looks the same now as it did when I started. Sometimes it's things that kind of evolved, as maybe, again, I don't even remember back then, but let's say when I started, I played the Medicine Bowl, hit it once. And over time, it just, it's hitting it for some reason. One day I said, you know what? I think I'm going to hit 3 times today and see what that feels like. And that just felt better. And maybe I tried 6 the next day and I'm like, oh, nope, 6 is right out. We got to go back to 3. And, so you can play with it around that way too. It's not just, you do something and you're kind of, that's the way it is. Um, do what feels right for you. Like I think that's kind of the best way that I can think to put it.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, there's lots of different things that I do, that Brad does, that other people do, and maybe we'll share more of what some of these things are in other episodes. But one reason we haven't is because we don't want anybody who's listening to this to believe or think that they have to do things a certain way. Right. And so for those of you that I don't know if you're frustrated or not, like, damn it, just give me the 10-step list. Well, I'm not going to give you we're not going to give you the 10-step list because there's no right or wrong way of doing it. We're just trying to help give you some guidelines and share with you what we're doing so then you can find what resonates with you, right? And I can share, and probably a way to maybe kind of wrap up this episode is rituals are important, right? And if you were in, a religious tradition early on, you may be saying, oh, well, I don't want to do anything ritualistic because, that just reminds me of the religion and that's dogma and all this stuff. And I get it. I understand because I grew up the same way. There's, for me, there was a while where, doing things like getting icons or statues, man, I was taught that was idol worship, but I worked through that, right, myself. But what I can tell you is there is a lot of power in rituals because it forces us to, even for just a minute, right? And some of them don't even take a minute. They may take 10 seconds, 5 seconds.
Right, like my in the morning stuff. Exactly.
Yeah, right. But if you focus your attention and set an intention, even for just a few seconds throughout your day, it has a huge, huge, huge impact on your spiritual growth. And I can't emphasize that enough. That if you're serious about being on the spiritual path, what most people teach is not what it is. It's not sitting on a yoga mat and going for 45 minutes and now I'm enlightened. That's bullshit. And people that are trying to sell you that are selling you bullshit. Is that important? Is that a good practice? Is that, yes, but that is not the end all, right? And so incorporating rituals that make sense for you, that feel right for you, that you're given from the universe are the things that you need to do. And then when you do them with dedication, with discipline, with commitment, right? You're flexing, you're growing your spiritual muscles, if you will, as you're going through there. And a lot of these rituals are ways in which to connect you more with everything that is around you. And everything around us is God, right? One of the definitions that people have for God is everything collectively, right? And so, when I light my candle and I'm thinking about the element of fire and I'm grateful for the wax and the wick and the glass that it's in, and I'm expressing gratitude for that. And I'm talking to the sun, right? Those are all rituals, but they're also helping me develop a better relationship and that connectedness with everything around me, which is really, a much bigger part of the spiritual path than being able to silence your mind for 45 minutes on a yoga mat, because that didn't help anybody except you. Anyway, all right, off the soapbox.
No, not that you shouldn't. Again, try to silence your mind on the yoga mat for 45 minutes. Like I said, there can be benefits and things like that there, um, but yeah, I mean, these are ways, these rituals, whatever it might be, are ways for you. I like the way you said it, to kind of connect with things around you. I think to be able to maybe connect with yourself to some extent,
Mhm, mhm,
to kind of ground yourself, to be in the present, to be in the moment. And we've talked about that in the past, the importance of kind of being present. Because when you're doing something like this, when you're being intentional about an action, you're not thinking about the future, you're not worrying about the past. You're right here, right there and now when you're doing the action, and having that thought about it. And so rituals can help you focus on the present, can help you be present,
mhm,
and enjoy the moments that you're in. Um, so yeah, no, I think there's a lot of benefits, and um, and it's not and they don't have to be dogmatic things or these dark TV horror ideas of what a ritual is, ritualistic killings and all. It doesn't have to be any of that kind of stuff. Like I said, it can be easy as lighting a candle
Yep.
or, playing a sound bowl, a singing bowl or washing your hands. Like, just little things like that can be helpful for you. Um, and I think, if it's something you've maybe not done, I would say find something small you can try out and see how it feels for you. And see if you can find some benefit from it, if you think it maybe is worth it for you to do. And I think once you find one thing, then you find you get another thing and another thing and another thing. And before you know it, your old day is filled with different rituals and things. But that's another topic for
Which is
another
not a bad
episode.
thing, but it's another topic. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So I think Brad wrapped that up well. And again, we tried to explain the difference in how we see rituals versus practices. It doesn't matter what word you use,
Mhm.
but can you start doing some things with more intention around them? Because whatever you call them, the more intentional you are and the more you can place attention on the important things in life, that's getting you down the path. So
Mhm. Cool. Thank you guys for listening. Hopefully you found some benefit out of this, and we're gonna put some rituals into action. The light ones preferably, not some of the dark ones. But um, comments, questions, thoughts on the episode, please let us know. We love to hear your feedback, and we love to be able to answer your questions, maybe about rituals, or whatever it is that maybe we talked about. So let us know. Leave a comment, leave some love on there, and um, we'll keep on keeping on.
keep on keeping on. All right, everybody, have a great week. We'll see you on the next episode.